cluster sample. Alright guys, what is multi-stage? Go first. So first we have 32 tutorial sections. So that's our population. Then there's a random sample of 3 sections is chosen. So that's another stage. So that's the first stage, second stage. And then a random sample of 8 students from each selected sections are chosen to participate in a survey. So yeah, it will be multi-stage random sample. All right, part 2 says that now a farmer is interested in studying the beef production from his cows. He has 3 types of beef producing cows: Jamaican black, Jamaican red pole, and Jamaican Brahman. He takes a random sample of cows from each type and measures their beef product at the time of slaughter. What type of sampling distribution would this be? I'm trying to cover everything that Miss posted in your study package, so I'm trying to go through all of that with you. So yeah, so it will be stratified because they said that type. Once anything has to do with classification or anything like that, you know that it's stratified. Three says, how long does the average commercial break last on the network television stations? On 8 randomly selected days of the month, 5 time slots are randomly chosen and 1 show is randomly selected from each time slot. The length of each commercial during this time is recorded and the average determined. So what would this be? And now because you guys have the answer, what would that be? Yeah, so this would be multi-stage because first thing, it's more than 2 stages. So first, on 8 randomly selected days of the month, 5 time slots are randomly selected and 1 show is randomly selected from each time slot. So that's 3 different selection processing going on. Fourth now says that an introductory psychology lecturer is interested in how the lecturers are going this semester for her classes. She asks students to send her feedback on the lectures by email. Some of the students respond and she records the number of positive and negative responses from these emails. What would that be? Yeah, it would be voluntary because you don't have to respond. You're volunteering your answer. All right, thank you guys. So now we're going to be looking at experiments versus observation versus anecdotal evidence. So what is an experiment? So experiment is the conditions of the study are manipulated by the researcher. So we normally use experiments when we're trying to prove something. If you're trying to prove gravity or something like that, you normally set up an experiment and then you manipulate the conditions under which the experiment takes place and stuff like that. Next, we're going to be looking at observational study. So this is gathering data without interfering with the sample. So observational study is like, you can use a focus group. Maybe you want to see how persons behave in different communities, or how persons from different classes behave, or how persons from different households behave. You're not going to approach them, you're going to watch them from afar and allow them to behave in their natural habitat, and you collect your data from that. So that's observational study. Anecdotal evidence is drawing conclusions from our own experience. So maybe you're, as I was saying, you're doing an observational study on different classes, middle, upper, lower class or stuff, and maybe you're a middle class person and you are going to draw a conclusion about middle classes based on your own experience of being a middle class person. Types of data. So we know that we have two types of data, primary and secondary. So primary data is data that has been collected by the researcher for a specific purpose. So normally when you guys are doing research paper, you have to collect your own data. Or when you're doing experiments in chemistry class or bio class, you have to collect your own data, so that's primary data. Then for secondary data is data that is collected, that was collected by someone else, typically for another purpose, but it's being used by the investigator for their current studies. So normally when you use, you're writing a literature review, you're using secondary data because you're using information that was collected by other persons about their research paper to write a literature review on the topic that you're going to be studying. So we know we have two types of data, primary data, secondary data. Primary data, you collect it yourself. Secondary data is information that you collect that someone already collected. So what is a variable? A variable is a characteristic of what is being studied. So it is a study or experiment or observation can have multiple variables. So you can have more than one variable. It depends on what your primary focus is. So like if I am studying, I'm doing a paper on the causes of male underachievement, the variable would be anything that causes male underachievement. So we can have multiple variables. So the multiple variables that we can have, you can have socialization as a cause of male underachievement and so forth. You can have multiple variables. So a variable is collected for each subject, so for each person or animal or whatever. Data can also be divided into two types of data. So we have quantitative data as well as categorical data. So Categorical data, which is also called qualitative data, is data which records a thought, observation, opinion, or words. It is data expressed in words. So suppose you're collecting data on cars, the different colors, different car colors. So you know you have red, blue, purple, black, orange, and so forth. So that's what categorical or qualitative data is. Quantitative data, on the other hand, now is information presented in the form of numbers. It answers in numerical terms such as how often and how much. So if you want to know how many red cars somebody has, that would be quantitative. But if they ask you like the type of car, you know that would be categorical or qualitative, because they can have an Audi, they can have a Dodge, they can have a Ferrari, and so forth. So that's the difference between categorical as well as quantitative data. Quantitative data now can be divided into two types of data or variables. You have discrete and you have continuous variables. So discrete variable it can only take on certain values. So a discrete variable can only take on a whole number, and it has countable options. While for continuous variables, it can take on any value and it has infinite number of options. So an example that I'm always using is your birthday. If today is your birthday and today you're 21, and somebody asks you, how old are you? You're going to say, I'm 21 years old because today is your birthday. So that is a discrete variable. But if in December now somebody asks you, how old are you? To kind of make it technical, you're going to say, you're 21 years, 6 months, 2 days, 3 minutes, etc., etc. That's a continuous variable. So the difference between a discrete variable and a continuous variable is that a discrete variable takes on a number, while a continuous variable, there is some decimal place. Now we're going to be looking at levels of measurement. So you know that there are different levels of measurements. Guys, remember to turn off your mic. So we have 4 levels of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. So we know that nominal is categorical data where the order of the possible response does not matter. So for nominal, the order doesn't matter. While ordinal is categorical data where the order of the possible response matters. Interval is quantitative data for which there is no true zero. So you can perform mathematical operation on this data. And then ratio is quantitative data for which there is a true zero, and you can perform mathematical operation on this data. So for nominal is basically you're just grouping things. If I ask you what type of car, the order doesn't matter. You either have an Audi or a Note or a Toyota or